Good morning, students. In the previous class, we had a discussion about the properties of viruses. Why do we don't consider viruses as organisms? What are the non-living properties present? What are the living properties present? Even we also had a discussion about how the viruses are different from the organisms. What are the exclusive properties which are usually observed in the viruses? That we discussed. Today, let me have the discussion about the next aspect in the viruses, that is classification of viruses. How do we classify the viruses? All the viruses that are present in the universe may not be of the same type. There are different types of viruses. Viruses differ in their size, differ in their shape. Even they also differ in their organization. The kind of nucleic acids they have, the kind of proteins that they have, the kind of the reproduction that is present there in the viruses is not going to be the same. We are going to categorize the viruses into different types. That is referred as classification. It's assigning the viruses to different groups based on their composition. Even we can also assign the viruses to different groups based on the host that they infect. We are going to discuss this under the heading classification of viruses. Okay, virus could be classified based on the host that they infect. Viruses are very specific in their host that they are infected. You all know that viruses can't live without the proper host. If at all virus want to survive, it needs the living host. That is why we refer viruses as obligate parasites. Means they compulsorily live as parasites. If the proper host or suitable host is not available, yes, viruses can't survive. Okay, here the question is, do all the viruses infect all the hosts? Immaterial of differences, whether they are plants and animals. Immaterial of differences, whether the organisms are of different species. No. Viruses are highly specific. Viruses are highly specific and infecting the host. And very, very specific. So certain viruses are infecting the plants. Certain viruses are infecting the bacteria. Certain viruses are infecting the animals. Maybe the mammals. Okay, the viruses which are infecting the animals can't infect the plants. At the same time, the viruses which are infecting the plants can't infect the animals, and they can't infect the bacteria. They are very specific, based on which host the viruses infect. We are categorizing them into different types. Okay, the very first kind of viruses, unusually called as bacteriophages. Yeah, phage refers to virus. Macrophages means the bacterial viruses. Bacterial viruses means these viruses are specifically infecting the bacteria. They are infecting the bacteria. The viruses infecting bacteria are called as bacteriophages. The second kind of viruses are called as plant viruses. In other words, plant viruses are also called as phytophages. Phyto means plants. Okay, these are the viruses which infects only the plants. They infect the plants and they cause the disease in plants. For example, tobacco mosaic virus. And mosaic viruses of many plant species, maybe tobacco mosaic virus, tomato mosaic virus, brinjal mosaic virus, chili mosaic virus, even leaf curl virus in case of chili, in case of cotton, say little leaf virus. They are all the plant viruses. They are specifically infecting the plants. We refer them as plant viruses or bacterias. Remember, these viruses infects higher plants. Okay. What about the third kind of viruses? Third kind of viruses are simply called as animal viruses. Or we can also refer them as zoophages. These viruses infects the animals. Yes. For example, you consider a child. Maybe the polio virus, maybe the smallpox virus, maybe the very recently virus that is responsible for causing so much havoc, and we consider it as a highly pandemic COVID-19 virus. This is also that kind of virus. Consider the fourth type, mycophages. Mycos means the fungus. Mycophages means the fungal viruses. Fungal viruses. Okay, these viruses infects the fungi. Okay. There are different kinds of fungi which are available in our nature. Maybe the footballs, maybe the mushrooms, maybe the rust, maybe the smuts. These fungi, basically they are heterotrophic plants. But even these fungi are going to be infected by the viruses. We refer them as mycophages. Then viruses of the fifth type, we refer them as cyanophages. If cyanophages are the one, they infect blue, green algae. bacteria. There are some specific viruses which are going to infect only the cyanobacteria, such as the blue-green one. We refer them as cyanophils. And remember one thing, those viruses which are infecting the bacteria can't infect any of the other organisms. Like that, those viruses which are infecting the plants, they can't infect other organisms. Animal viruses means, yes, they are specific to animal hosts only. They can't infect the plants, they can't infect the bacteria. Based on which hosts are going to be infected by the bacteria, yes, we categorize them into different groups. Then let me consider the second basis for the classification. There is also second basis for the classification of the viruses. Viruses can be classified based on the kind of nucleic acid. Which type of nucleic acid is present there in the virus? You all know that viruses do not possess both the nucleic acids. Out of the two nucleic acids, they have only one, either DNA or RNA. Suppose there in the virus if DNA is present, okay, then there is no RNA, here RNA is absent. Suppose if the viruses are having RNA, if they contain RNA, then this RNA itself acts as a genetic material. In such viruses, there is no DNA present. Either one of the two nucleic acids are present, whether it is DNA or RNA. Based on the kind of nucleic acid that they possess, we categorize the viruses into two different types. Yes. Viruses are categorized into two different types. The first kind of viruses, they are called as DNA viruses. Second type of viruses are called as RNA viruses. Okay. DNA viruses are the one which contain DNA. Okay. RNA viruses are the one which have the RNA. In case of RNA viruses, when only RNA is present and this RNA itself acts as a genetic material, no need of DNA here. RNA takes the function of DNA and it behaves as a genetic material. And further, the DNA and RNA viruses are further classified. Okay, it is important that the DNA that is present there in the viruses is single-stranded or it is double-stranded. Very similarly, RNA that is present there in the viruses is either single-stranded or double-stranded. Based on that, we categorize the viruses. Okay, DNA viruses are classified into two types. DS, DNA viruses. SS, DNA viruses. DS means double-stranded DNA viruses. SS means single-stranded DNA viruses. Double-stranded DNA viruses are the one, yes, of course, they have the DNA molecule, but in this DNA molecule, there are two strands present. Like that, SS DNA viruses are the one. Okay, in these viruses, DNA that is being present is having only single strand or only one strand. Like that, RNA viruses can also be classified into DS RNA viruses and SS RNA viruses. Very simple classification. Just look here. DS RNA viruses means double-stranded RNA viruses. SS RNA viruses means single-stranded DNA. Single-stranded RNA viruses. Based on the kind of nucleic acid that they have, whether it is DNA or RNA, we categorize them into two groups. And based on which type of DNA that they have, either single-stranded or double-stranded, these DNA viruses are further classified into two groups. Very similarly, even the RNA viruses are also classified into two groups based on the kind of RNA that they have. Whether they have single-stranded RNA or double-stranded RNA. Okay, this is with reference to that of the kind of viruses that are present and how we classify the viruses into different groups. Okay. The next class I will take up the structure of DNA virus. Okay. I am going to conclude with this, and in the next